Welcome to Real Estate Talk with your host, Ken Sax. This show is created for you, the consumer. Our goal is to empower you with information and education, thereby giving you the tools needed to make informed decisions when it comes to real estate.
Well, hi, folks. I'm your host, Ken Sax, and you are watching Real Estate Talks. And thank you again for joining us. And our topic today is a topic that, well, these all come up all the time, but this is a conversation that those in the industry have multiple times a day. And it's something that we thought you would benefit from, and that is, how do I pick a real estate agent? I am either finding myself now in the market to buy or invest or sell my house. And how do I go about picking that real estate agent? Is it the one who's a friend of a friend of a friend's kid or what? And so I think that's definitely worth diving into because there's a lot to talk about that stuff, and there's a lot of dynamics in real estate itself, not to mention the state of the market that we're in at whatever time it is you find yourself going in the market. So my guests today are Tanya Tyler and Craig Hudkins, both with Keller Williams Spokane. So welcome.
Thank you, Ken.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for being here. Tanya and Craig are both brokers here in Spokane and for Keller Williams Spokane. And so that's what we're going to talk about, you guys, because I'm sure this is a conversation you have fairly regularly, as do I, but I think it's really worth our viewers kind of hearing maybe from the other side, the side of a real estate broker, what we think you should be asking, you should be thinking about, maybe what you should be doing, all in the spirit of finding that right broker for you. So let's talk about that, you guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of buyers forget that process. They're shopping for a home. They're not necessarily shopping for an agent. And a lot of times they just come across one by default.
Sure.
It's like they go online, they click through on a property, next thing you know, they're getting a call from 6 different agents. And how do they know that those people can actually help work for them?
Right.
Represent them well, or there's a friend of the family, or there's a family member, everybody's being encouraged to use somebody. No, I think you really do have to put a lot of thought into this.
Okay.
A lot of different things.
I say, and I like that. You're right. You do have to put a lot of thought into it, but I also think that it's like interviewing. I mean, this is the person that's going to represent you through one of the biggest investments that you're going to probably do. Why not interview them and make sure that this is the right person? Like I always say that it has to be the right fit. You and I are like a team. We have to play ball in the right way. I'm a baseball junkie, so I just have to add that in there.
Sure.
But you know,
noted.
thank you. But it's just, you really have to come together and you have to make sure. So I always say interview and have some interview questions for that agent. Don't just pick the first one that calls you and think that's the right one, because it might not be.
Right. So we're going to get into some of those questions. And I always tell clients and especially sellers, I'm interviewing you too.
I do
Do I want to work with you?
Right.
That's another choice because
Yeah.
maybe it's not a fit with me. We're just not a fit because of me. You know, who knows?
Right.
But it's a two-way interview. So I like that we need to ask some questions, but I don't know what questions those should be. What are some of the questions I should ask my broker? Because again, my friend, coach, brother, teacher says, oh, hey, my daughter, son just got their license, use them. Mm-hmm. So what kind of questions should we ask?
Well, I think the first thing, because if they're going to be, they should be a professional. I mean, and they're going to do real estate full time. They more than likely have an office. So that person should be, the potential agent should be inviting them to an office where they can have a meeting, where they can take some time, talk to each other. So I think some important questions is, where's your office? How often do you do this? Or is this something you're just doing on the side? And then if they are just doing it on the side, then you want to know who's their mentor, who's helping them. Because really, this is definitely one of those things where you don't know what you don't know until all of a sudden it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, boy, those are some good questions to ask. a question that I always ask, and it reveals so much, and it's a simple question. How's the market?
That's a great one.
Because you'll hear things, oh, it's great. Tell me more. It's fantastic. Versus explaining average sales price, months of inventory, price drop, price increase, just asking that question. So when a client comes to me and says, hey, we're moving out of state, and they want me through my referral network to align them with an agent, or if I don't have an agent in their destination city and I am almost cold calling, I ask that question to the agents that I call, and the difference in answers are staggering, and you quickly see who has a pulse in their industry and with what they do versus those who Mark is great.
I always say plugged in, because that's exactly
Plugged
what
in.
you're saying. They're plugged in. Who's plugged in? If it's an agent in another city or if it's an agent here, how plugged in are you?
Sure.
And that goes back to what you said, Craig, is really like, are you doing this part-time? Are you doing it full-time? You could do it part-time and still be really plugged in to everything that's happening,
Yes.
the market and things like that. So
I agree.
I love that, the plugged in.
I think what I hear saying is they're a local market expert. And
Local
not just
market
like
expert.
local market expert in Spokane, but maybe like Garland to the Valley. See, we live in Millwood, so I know Millwood like the back of my hand.
Sure.
I know the homes that are for sale, all the homes that are for sale. We're always looking at them. We're driving by them. I know the average price. I know, there's a lot that I know about that area. So when someone calls me up and asks questions, I can just off the top of my head, and I even know, the South Valley really well too, because I have listings out there. So I think that you when you get someone who's experienced, they're going to talk to you in a different way. Someone who
Agreed.
isn't experienced, they're going to give you a lot of generalisms.
And even, the question, how's the market? Needing a pulse, you need a pulse on the market, because as we've talked about on this show before, every type of market has a certain set of dynamics. And so first, your real estate professional needs to understand what kind of market we're in. And then if they understand that, they probably then understand the dynamics associated with that market, so that you, the client, can succeed and achieve your goals. But if you don't know the market, you don't know the dynamics, you're not going to succeed, or it's unlikely that you'll succeed. So I'm a big, big believer in that. So good.
That's a
Any
good
more
one.
questions that I would ask somebody?
I think if you're a first-time home buyer, I think that that's a great thing to ask. How many first-time home buyers have you worked with? Because that could be a little different for someone, meaning that they might need their hand held a little bit more because they don't know.
Right.
Do you have a buyer's packet? Do you have something that's going to help me through the process? How will I navigate through this process as a buyer? So, Mr. Agent, how are you going to navigate me through the process? I need to know that.
And you're talking about, or I was talking about, dynamics. There's a whole set of dynamics right there with a first-time home buyer, that if you just, have done a few transactions maybe with investors, you're not going to understand or be able to foresee the questions, the issues, the emotions, the dynamics with that first-time home buyer. Just like even, maybe somebody who's downsizing, the seniors out there, there's a set of dynamics as well. And gosh, everything I'm talking about to me just sounds like wisdom.
Right.
That comes from the experience, which we can put to work for the client.
Exactly.
So good. All right. So we have some questions that we're arming our viewers with. What are some other things? Because, I've got, maybe 3 brokers coming to my house that I'm going to be interviewing.
Well, I think in addition to the type of financing that the buyer is going to be using, is also what type of property. Because buying a Valley Rancher is very different than getting a manufactured home on 5 acres in North Spokane.
Right?
Very different. So does that person have experience with manufactured homes? Do they know the type of financing they can get? What to do with the well? What to do with the septic?
Exactly.
Title
point.
report.
Yeah.
There's just so many different things. And then I think in addition to that, it is, how's this person actually going to even get your offer accepted?
Right.
You've got 10 offers. The house has been on the market since Friday. It's Sunday morning. And they're looking at offers Monday. How do you know yours is going to get accepted? What is that agent going to do?
That's good. Mike.
That's right. And if we're in a market, which we have been for a while, a seller's market, so it's not uncommon to see multiple offers. Gosh, I was telling you guys about a recent example of on a house that I have listed where the broker delivered the offer to me and it was in shambles. It was on old forms that we can't use anymore. So much was missing. Their buyers were so exposed and they didn't even realize it. But that broker, it was the kids of, it was one of those like, oh, use my friend. And it almost seems like, or it seems like, a lot of consumers think, well, we do nothing more than just open doors. So
Right.
we can pick anybody to open the door for us.
Right. I think I see that a lot where it's the friend of the kid or something like that. So I just talked to this lady and I've been working with her for about 8 months. And she wasn't ready to buy yet, so we had gone through the end of her process. But she said, I'm still opening the door because my cousin's friend or something like that, cousin's friend's husband or something just got his license and I want to give him a shot as well. So I just got off the phone with her last week and she said, I'm going to give John a shot. And I said, how many houses has John, sold? Because I knew he was getting his, and she said, oh, this will be his first. And my heart just thought, oh, you poor thing. Like there's so many things that can go wrong. I mean, I know as an agent, we have to have those first moments of our first house and our second house and our third house, but we also want to make sure that we're protecting those people that are our clients as well as our buyers. And so my heart just sank because I thought, oh, bless your heart, who knows what's going to happen.
Kind of like how I felt when I saw this offer that was in shambles that we were not going to even start with. And I thought those poor buyers lost the house.
Exactly.
And they have no idea why. But I also want to, I'm thinking about this and I don't want our viewers to think so new agents then just never use a new agent. I mean, that's not, I want to talk about that. We're not saying that.
No, definitely not. Because new agents, like I said, we all have to
We've
have
all
a
been
break.
there.
I mean,
Right.
I remember my first client and I remember this so much where I think I even called you at one time, right? So, but yeah, and I remember he didn't know that he was my first. So I just kind of went with it and he said, I'm ready to write the offer. And I said, okay, great. And then I called you and said, as my designated broker, help me and walk me through this. So I make sure that I get all the right forms. So one person interviewed me about a year ago and said, how much training do you do? And I thought that was a great question to interview as an agent. How much training do you do? And I said, I'm taking classes constantly because this industry is so evolving all the time that if you just think you have it all and you know it all as an agent, you really don't. But even as new agents, I see a lot of new agents always constantly going through training. They just need to know more and they want to know more. That would be a great agent to represent you.
Absolutely. And I've said this often, and when I teach, I say this. There are many newly licensed agents who could sell circles around agents who've had their license for 15, 25, 35 years. So it's not, viewers, it's not, well, if you're new, Ken, Tanya, and Craig are saying we can't use you. Absolutely not saying that. But like what you said, I was there to support you and back you up and make sure we were giving your client the best level of service. So that might be another question to ask an agent when we're interviewing them. Tell me about your support. Do you have a mentor? Do you have, how does that work? Because a new agent with that kind of support, all day.
100%.
All day.
And I will be honest, I love Keller Williams because of that. I'm just putting that plug. But because we do have so much support, I have a lot of people that always say together as a whole, we're helping each other. We're not competition. You want to do good. And so that's the one thing that I do love because you picked up the phone. And if I remember correctly, you weren't feeling very good, but you were like, let's get through this. Let's do this. And you still took the time to get my clients satisfied. for what
Wow, I
they
was a
need.
nice guy.
You were a nice guy.
Yeah, okay.
I think, you know what? I think you're a very
Well,
nice guy.
and-
I'll give you a point.
All right.
So I've talked to Steve Freeman
Yep.
with our office
Yep.
a lot, and even after doing dozens. I mean, I think I'm
Yep.
over 100 transactions now, and I still have questions.
Absolutely. That's
And
why they say it's practicing real
Yeah.
estate. Like, we never get it exactly.
It's kind of the
We're
fun
always
part.
practicing.
Yeah, you got to enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, an agent with support, mentor if they're a new agent.
Yep. If they're
you
on
know-
a team, if they've got who's on their team helping them, and I think
Yeah,
there's
you
a
bet.
lot
Tell me
of-
about your structure. One thing that I picked up a couple months ago, and being a designated broker, I deal with a lot of the problems and things like that. And so this was very interesting information to me. E&O, which errors and omissions insurance, doctors have it, lawyers have it, real estate brokers have it. Back in 1994, they told me that in your career as a licensed real estate agent, there would be 1 in 14 that would have an E&O claim, an errors and omissions claim. And what that means to our viewers is that's like something big. That's not, hey, the toilet was leaking and the sellers didn't fix it. No, this is something big, $50,000, $70,000, $150,000 at stake. That's what errors and omissions insurance is for. So that's the background. So in 1994, the data was 1 in 14 licensed real estate agents could expect an E&O claim in their career. Today, 1 in 4.
Oh my gosh.
1 in 4. And I, as a designated broker, absolutely believe that.
Wow.
So that's how, to me, I just picture a minefield. And are you going to step on a mine or aren't you? So now there's just a lot more mines to step on, which takes me to, it's even more important to understand who you're working with, whether it's day one or 30 years in. That's okay, but tell me more about that, because we need that support. We need that competence, because we know, and the stats tell us, it's much more dangerous out there.
Right.
So I think we're coming up on probably about 2 minutes left.
Well, I think one thing I don't know if we've mentioned this or not, but you can find out how an agent's done by looking at their reviews.
Sure.
There's lots. If they have an online presence, they're going to have some place where they're going to have their reviews being shown, whether it's Zillow or Google or Yelp, and you can even see sometimes on there how many transactions they've done. So that's one way to see what's going on with that agent.
Yeah, I like that, and then I also like that because that would give the consumer conversation. Things to talk about, because we know that may or may not be accurate with online reviews. I know I've seen some inaccuracies, with my reviews, but that gives you something to talk about.
Okay.
And I don't know about you guys, but how I take reviews, and maybe it's just me, but if there's not one kind of zinger in there, I have a hard time trusting the credibility of the reviews.
Well, it's in how you respond to the zingers, I think, is really that matters.
Yes, if you're
Yes.
showing the
If
responses.
you've got them, and I look for that too. If it's all fives and that's all they've ever had,
All
you're like,
five, you're the best.
really?
Come on.
I want that. I want that 3, and then I want to see how they responded
Yeah.
to it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know, in working with the public for so long, that you cannot please everybody,
No. Right.
and there
No.
will be 1 or 2 or more that just unload. And if I'm looking for, a service myself, say maybe a contract or whatever, if I don't see any of that, I'm already suspicious.
Who's leaving those reviews?
Right.
Exactly.
Good. So we have about less than a minute. Reviews.
I just want to add
Yes.
one thing. You do not pay a buyer's agent a commission, so they're working kind of for free for you. So that really shows you how amazing this person could be, because they're getting paid from the seller.
Good.
So I just want to put that in, because buyers don't have a clue of where that money is coming from, thinking that they owe it to you.
Good. Hey, how do I get a hold of you guys if I'm watching this and I want to meet with you?
TanyaTyler.com or 509-230-4579.
Craig?
Text or call 509-979-5338, or go to our Facebook page at Optimus Group. The Optimus Group.
The Optimus Group. Good. thank you for being here. Viewers, I hope this helped a little bit. And you know, I always think of, hey, you have to go in for a big medical procedure, let's say. Would you just go to the doctor that someone referred you to because they're friends of my wife and they're really nice? Or would you maybe make a deeper decision and look at their experience and reviews and, you know, school or whatever? All we're suggesting, folks, is real estate brokers definitely do more than open doors. And it's when you finally go under contract, whether you're a buyer or a seller, that's where the experience, wisdom, support, mentorship, that's where it comes in, because it's the behind the scenes with us pulling our hair out and on the phone and pacing and stressing and not sleeping. That's where we are making our money. But we just do a bad, we're not good at telling you that. So then you think, well, they're not doing anything. They're on to the next person because they just open doors. So I'm hoping we shed a little bit of light on that. So with that, we will close. Ken Sax with Real Estate Talks. Again, Tanya, Tyler, Craig Hudkins. And this show now is brought to you by Keller Williams Spokane. So a big shout out to Keller Williams Spokane, #1 office in Spokane by agent count. And we're all, we all enjoy what we do, and I think that's apparent. So folks, we will see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Real Estate Talk is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask Ken a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Spokane Talks.